Welcome back, everybody, to All Things Rangers. This week, I am joined, of course, in where I'm actually in California right now. A little bit of a road trip. Hopefully, I don't, I tried to give you scenic views out there, but it was too hot. Fortunately for me, I'm joined by the one and only Mr. John Volkowski.
I don't have anything witty to say.
Don't have anything witty to say?
No.
All right, yeah, I kind of had that problem too. And licking his wounds from last night, Mr. Anthony Rocco.
Goal can't go in overtime. That's all I'm gonna say. Can't.
Well, that's where we're starting with. Yet again, it's the Islanders and the Bruins. We know about what happened in Game 1, 5-2 win for the Bruins. David Pastrnak had a hat trick. Game 2, Islanders winners in overtime, where Casey Zizekas had a breakaway. Well, we still don't know what Jeremy was thinking, but that's a different story. And then last night, as the barn was a-rocking, the Bruins came a-knocking and silenced the crowd almost immediately on the Craig Smith goal. But Islanders would tie it late, and then Brad Marchand from a tough angle just beats Semyon Varlamov. Anthony, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, on the overtime goal in particular, it just simply can't go in. I mean, Marchand was essentially like against the boards and from a terrible angle. Pageau kind of closed them off. He was right next to him. Marchand, I mean, don't get me wrong, he placed the shot well, but I mean that has to be stopped. I mean, it really does. There's really nothing else left to say other than that's a horrendous goal by Varlamov. And look, I kind of got into it with some of the people I post on over at Islander Mania because they were saying, talking about how great Varlamov was during the game, and yeah, he was good. But if you're constantly letting up the first shot you see in a game, and then letting in stuff like that in overtime, my opinion, I don't give a flying what you do during the game. If you're sitting there letting up the first goal you see and letting up fluff shots and soft goals, what does it all matter in the end? It doesn't matter at all, because in the end you're losing anyway because of poor play. And I mean, look, I'm not going to kill him too much on that first goal. It was the first shot, but also too, it was higher in the slot. It wasn't necessarily point blank, and we're not talking Alexander Semyon twisted wrister either. It was Craig Smith, and the puck kind of fluttered a little bit, so like it's not like I'm not going to label it like a soft goal, but I mean, it's a goal that I think your goalie should be able to a save that your goalie should be able to come up with. And listen, the Coliseum was loud regardless. I mean, they got, after the goal, they continued, they do what they do all game. But at the same time, you don't want that to happen. It does let temporarily the air out of the building when that happens. And, Varlamov has done it far too often in the playoffs. So, I mean, look, it's just frustrating because Sorokin's 4-1 with a .934 save percentage, and yeah, he dropped the first game to Boston, but if you kind of go through the goals that he let up, like that story in Game 1, I don't know if you guys remember, they were talking about it. The Bruins scored that first goal with 38 seconds left in the first period. Prior to that goal, they were already talking about, once again, the story is Ilya Sorokin keeping the Islanders in the game. And he let up that power play goal, Pastrnak. Not a bad goal. What can you do? One of the best shooters in the league on a power play. He beat you. Second goal, Bergeron took one thing you could say, he took a rebound right to Pastrnak, but he slid over. And if it weren't for the puck going off of Pollock, Sorokin probably makes a 10-bell save there, and it's on ESPN Top 10. He came awfully close. And then the third goal, the Bruins did their job. They went to the net. They took his eyes away, and McAvoy took a shot, and it beat him. And then obviously the fourth goal, was, again, Pageau in the slot, basically alone, because they all went to Taylor Hall, who was crashing in the net. And once again, one of the best goal scorers in this league beat him. So he didn't do anything wrong in Game 1. I thought Barry Trotz sort of gave him another opportunity in Game 2 to come back. again, the Islanders end up winning game 2. But anyway, the fact is, I think Sorokin should have got another opportunity in that game 2. Because if you look at that game 2, Varlamov, that first goal, yeah, Nick Leddy got walked. I'm not taking all the onus away from Varlamov on that one. Leddy got smoked, but then Varlamov goes to do a poke check, gets embarrassed, and then he's not quick enough to get his leg pad there. The one thing we're all in agreement with Sorokin, he's very athletic. He probably wouldn't even attempted a poke check there because he would have easily been slide across and get his leg there because Craig Smith did not lift the puck. And then that second goal that Bergeron scored before Marchand tied it on the power play, it was like high slot, and he's beat him with a wrist shot. And Bergeron doesn't have an incredible shot. He's not Alex Ovechkin. I think that puck needed to be stopped too. So listen, it is what it is at this point. I would be absolutely shocked if Sorokin played tomorrow. I know Varlamov, this Trotz is going to go back to Varlamov. And if they lose again and they're down 3-1, then you know what? Barry Trotz has questions to answer because people are going to ask, especially if they go on to lose a series. But Sorokin 4-1, 934 save percentage. Varlamov's 1-3 going into tomorrow's game. If he happens to lose, he'll be 1-4. People are going to ask those questions, and you know what? I love Trotz, but that's something that's on him at that point. So boys, I don't know. I don't know. I pray to God that the Islanders win tomorrow because first and foremost, I'm an Islander fan. I want to see them win. But let me tell you something. If the Islanders lose again tomorrow, this is on Barry Trotz here.
Filk, you played defense, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so which would you rather have? The goalie that can, you'd always rather have the first aid goalie, I think. But that's where I wanted to get your take on that because the goalie stops the puck and then let the defense and everybody else worry about the rebounds. That's what the knock seems to be when people talk about Sorokin, that he kicks out rebounds or something or such. He makes saves. That's what you want, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was always Henrik Lundqvist's bugaboo, though, too. He let up. There were times where, if you noticed when he wasn't on, he'd let up a lot of juicy rebounds. And that's a problem sometimes for defenders because if you're letting them up in bunches, they have to be on their toes the entire game. Not that defenders shouldn't be on their toes the entire game, but you place more of an onus on them. And you have to have better defenders at that point. It's funny because on Twitter, someone I follow made a poll and was talking about, would you rather have the goalie like Lundqvist, who is an absolute brick wall, takes up a portion of your cap, like a big portion of your cap, and ties the team down and kind of hamstrings the team from making other moves, or would you rather have a more slightly above average goalie and be able to make other moves up front and on defense, with the cap space that you would save from tying up, a contract like Lundqvist's during his time where like his relative cap hit was probably the highest among goaltenders and was, very high, maybe 15% of the cap or so for the team. And then you have contracts like Bobrovsky and Price, where they're making double digits and they're tying up their teams from making other moves, from adding top end talents. So I answered I would rather have the goalie like a Talbot or someone who's like slightly above average is good, not a Norris contender. Because if you look at a lot of the goalies that have won in recent years, how many perennial Vezina candidates have won in the last 20 or so years? You've got Hasek, Waugh, Brodeur,
Thomas.
Thomas wasn't a perennial Vezina candidate. He was a winner. He had that year where he won, but he wasn't a guy that was finishing as a finalist every year. But the point is, you have guys like Binnington who've won. You've had Osgood won. I think Osgood maybe was a finalist 1, maybe 2 years of his career. I think in '96 he was a finalist.
Yeah, I think maybe '96.
And I think I was it 2002 that he got votes. when he was with the Islanders that one year? Because I know he was really good with them that year.
Yeah,
but,
he was really good with the Islanders that first year.
Yeah. But I mean, if you look at Cam Ward was never like a Vezina caliber goaltender. He just had that really good run as a rookie in the playoffs. And I mean, other guys have won as
Anthony Emmy, Corey Crawford, all those guys. Yes,
exactly. So, I mean, Sorokin seems like he has the tools to be an elite goaltender, and the athleticism is there. But yeah, you don't want a goalie that's kicking out rebounds left and right, because you're gonna eventually it's gonna tire your defense out, and it's gonna lead to more possessions for the other team. And that's going to lead to increased defensive zone time for your team, and that puts them further against the ropes. Like, the Islanders were outplayed last night, and they were absolutely outplayed last night. The shot counts were almost double at certain points in the game. And I'm not saying shot counts are everything, but you can't be being outshot by almost double by the other team and expect to win a game. You can't. Like, me and you would know, Mark. We were Ranger fans with the 6 goalie system under Tortorella and watching the team just get outshot. And yeah, Lundqvist can get you to a point. A guy like that can get you to a point. But if you don't have that over-the-top talent, that upfront talent, or even on defense too, to get you over the top and take over those games, you're not going to win it all. And add Panarin to any of those Rangers teams in the early 2010s, like the 2012 team or the 2014 team. They absolutely win the cup with a talent like that. Absolutely. And that's why I said, if the Islanders lose this in the first round, or if they don't make it to the conference finals or so on, that Lou Lamoriello is going to have a lot of questions to answer for not pulling the trigger on that Taylor Hall deal. So,
which it's also good that you guys have cleared that up for me, because I always thought it was the other way around. Taylor Hall is the one that said no. But I do have. Yeah, I mean, he went for the depth. That's what he went for.
yeah.
But as far as this goes, Anthony, I'm in your camp. You should be going with the white whale the rest of the time, and he's just not. He's at least going to give you more of a chance to win than Varlamov is. Varlamov seems to be off his angles all the time. Both goals by Marchand in the series, the one that tied the game on Monday night and the one last night. It did not seem like he had the right angle. And when you do that, you're not going to win. It's just that simple. Then you get your defense rolling their eyes, going, "Oh my God, can he just make one stop?" Even though he made a bunch of several good stops, the ones that go in are the ones that stick in your head.
Yeah, Pelech's reaction when the camera panned to him after that winning goal, he was like, "What the fuck?" Like that. I mean, because no one did anything wrong. Pageau was there, holding Marchand to the wall, and it was either Pelech or Pollock was in front of Marchand. He had nowhere to go. They played it perfectly, and they still lost on the play. So I could get why that would be very frustrating for them. I mean,
yeah, that can't go in. It can't. And I know that people have talked about things in the past with me where I say, "Oh, well, Hank should have had that shot." That reminds me of Game 3, 2015 Eastern Conference Finals. I will answer that in a little bit, Julian. That's definitely something I want to talk about. Absolutely. Now that you mention that, but that reminds me of Kucherov, Game 3 in overtime, 2015 Eastern Conference Finals. Henrik Lundqvist should have had that shot. It was far enough out, wasn't screened. It was a long shot. Kucherov has a good shot. We learned that, but you got to have that shot from that far out. And Varlamov has to have that Marchand shot. Did he place it well, like you said? Sure. Was it a great shot? No. Should have had it. Should have had it. No excuse.
Well, and again, the one in Game 2, before we get to the what have we learned and all the other questions, the one in Game 2, there was nobody but Islanders in front of him, and it went in. That cannot happen. That absolutely cannot happen. All right, so Anthony, what have we learned in the series so far?
Oh, I mean, I think we learned that I know we knew that this series was going to be close and these teams are evenly matched, but I think we learned that the Islanders can go can go toe to toe with the Bruins. You know, in game 2, they were the far better team in the second period when they went up by 2 goals. And in the third period, for the first 9 minutes or so before the Bruins started pressuring and mounting their comeback, the Islanders controlled the play. They were physical. They didn't give the Bruins time and space. They halted their transitions out of the zone with their Islander forecheck. They really made the Bruins turn when they went to collect the puck in the offensive zone. And the Islanders came at Boston in waves. And even last night, the Islanders lost despite getting outshot. It was a 1-1 game in overtime. They limited the perfection line. They didn't really get too many good looks. I saw, despite them giving up a lot of shots, you don't want to see that. They did their job against the Bruins as a whole in terms of high danger chances. But I think, early in overtime, Eberle and Barzal almost won it before Marchand scored. So the game was there for the taking. The Islanders have been, even game 1, it was 2-2 going into the third. So the Islanders have been in all these games. And if it weren't for the questionable goaltending last night from Varlamov on the game winner, who knows? The Islanders maybe end up winning that game. So I think I learned that, like I said, we knew it was going to be close, but I learned to see that this is going to be real close. I think this is a series that might go all the way to 7 games. So we'll have to see.
Filk?
A lot of what you said was what I was saying in the preview. I mean, I said this was going to be a real close series. I said the if not all of the games are going to be decided by a goal or so, or 2 goals or less, a goal. I mean, these were all going to be all tough games. I think what I've really learned is that Boston as a team plays an excellent defensive game, and they're real good in transition, which is what the Islanders are really good at. So Boston, from what I've really learned, is that they're a lot like the Islanders, and they will go back and they will give the physicality, like I said that they would. And I've learned that they could play that game in spades. It's crazy how physical that team has been against the Islanders. And the Islanders, they've gone hit for hit with them. I mean, sometimes the totals may favor the Islanders because that identity line likes to run around and hit everything that moves. So that might ramp their numbers up a little bit. But if you look at Boston's other lines, their other lines have been really physical. I mean, I've also learned that Charlie Coyle is actually a very, very good two-way player. I mean, he's been really good in this series. Connor Clifton has been really good for Boston, I would say. Tuukka Rask has told everybody that he's not going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, he looks as good as he's ever looked. So I mean, I think right now he might be playing the best hockey I think he's ever played in his career. That includes his Vezina winning year in 2014. So yeah, I think Boston can play that type of game. And I didn't think I thought a lot of people doubted Boston's ability to play that type of game. And they're really sticking it to everybody right now that said that they couldn't play that. So, yeah, I would say that's what I've learned.
By the way, it's amazing what it's like when you have a goalie that stops a shot that should go in. Tristan. So, and yeah, well, I think I got to be the third one to say it's the same thing. It's to use a metaphor from something that John and I love, and the hat that I wore the other day. It's sort of like Link versus Dark Link. That's what it's like. You're facing your mirror image, and now there's the mirror image of Boston. It's just they got to come up with one more save. It's just that simple. I mean, yeah, I think we talked about it on Monday how the Palmieri goal he was a little off, and you get the bounce off of Jeremy Lazan, the Bailey goal. I mean, you got to capitalize, and they were getting outshot, getting outplayed last night. Later in the game, early on in the first period, they actually outshot Boston. So they just got to come back, get game 4, but you're not going to do that with the goaltending that Semyon Varlamov was giving us. So that leads to what's been disappointing is so far, and I'm going to start this one off, guys. I don't want to rag on the guy too much, but even though he scored last night, it's still Matt Barzal. He's got to step up. He's got to be something. He's got to be a force. going into last night's game, if I said to you he was third on the team in shots or tied for third with 20 shots on net, would you believe me? No, you'd be like, oh no, how many shots does he have? 6? No, and you know what? Maybe last night gets him going and moving forward. He breaks out because he's certainly a capable player of doing that. Phil, let's go to you for your disappointing player so far, or what's disappointing you.
Anthony's answer here, but it's got to be said. Barry Trotz, and what is he doing with the goaltending? I don't get it. I don't get why you would take the hot hand and Ilya Sorokin out. Sorokin's played very well. You got to give credit where credit is due. Ilya Sorokin's been good. It's been really good for that team. And then you go back to Varlamov, and I understand he got the winning game too, but I'm not trying to bash the Islanders here, but I thought they got 2 really big breaks that helped them win game 2. And if they don't get those breaks, because I think they were outplayed for a good portion of that game, if they don't get those 2 breaks, I think Sorokin's in net for game 3. Because while Varlamov was good in that game, he wasn't great. And Sorokin has played better than him throughout the playoffs. So if I'm Barry Trotz, I go back to Sorokin. I have to, especially after that last goal. If he doesn't go back to Sorokin after that goal, that game-deciding goal last night in overtime, I really have to question what Barry Trotz is thinking at that point. So I'm going to say Barry Trotz.
Anthony?
I was going to go with Barry Trotz too. It's so hard for me because like I understand the fact that Varlamov was your guy during the season. He probably could have been one of the 3 finals and he wasn't, but he was really good for them. Arguably their MVP. I understand all that. He's the veteran. Lou, Trotz are kind of veteran biased guys. I get all that, but Sorokin came in and won the series for them with Pittsburgh, changed the course of it. Game 1, he lost, but that wasn't on him. And I know you could say being loyal to Varlamov, but where's the loyalty to Sorokin right there? You pull the plug on a guy who got you there. What does that say for your confidence in him that you're taking him out after one game? And now, once again, it kind of makes it harder for him to go back to Sorokin at this point because, because Varlamov was. Let's get the facts straight. Varlamov was good last night. As much as I don't think he should be playing, he was good for them. He made a lot of good saves, but it comes back to the letting in the untimely goals of seeing the first shots you face, and that overtime goal. That's what it comes back to. For me, that outweighs the good by a lot, especially in the playoffs when the margins are razor thin. So, and now I know his mindset. His mindset is going to be, well, Varlamov was the reason why it was a 1-0 game for as long as it was. Gave us an opportunity to tie the game. The Bruins had those 2 power plays in the third where they essentially had the puck in the zone the whole time, and the Islanders defense and Varlamov were there to shut the door. And he's probably going to look past the overtime goal, and he's going to go over Varlamov again. But, I don't think that's the right decision. Just as quick as he was to get Sorokin out there after a loss, the same should be said for Varlamov. So, but not going to happen. Varlamov going to be in the game tomorrow, and we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, that is disappointing. It really is.
2 things. One is somebody's phone going on and off the charger. I keep on hearing a boop, boop. No? Okay. All right. Then maybe it's just me going crazy.
No.
Okay. So the other thing, going to what you're saying with that is if he goes back to Sorokin tomorrow, then it's a situation where if somebody lets in a goal, they're going to be looking over their shoulder to see if they're getting told. Now he's not pulling anybody in game, but that's why you don't ever want goalie controversies like this ever, because it's never a good thing. And then you get the team feels down because they feel like a goal should have been stopped, and then sometimes they step up, they get it, and it's just it's not a good situation. All right. What's been surprising me so far is how awful the officiating is. in this series. Oh my goodness. We were talking about it last night. The Taylor Hall penalty, mild at best. It really wasn't even, shouldn't have been a penalty. Brandon Carlo gets away with mugging somebody. Where is the consistency? That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no consistency really.
They the little slash that was called, what was that in the third? Yeah, I mean, I like, if you're gonna call that, you might as well just call the game the way that you call the games in the regular season, because that was just such a just a petty call. Like, why are you calling that in the playoffs? They want to put away their whistles for a period, and then they want to call that? Like, I don't get it. And then they don't call Brandon Carlo for absolutely just full-on cross-checking Jordan Eberle into the boards from behind. I was like, wait, like, you didn't call that after calling that slash? I don't get it. I really don't. Like, listen, if they're going to put the whistles away, just put them away and just.
Or Jake DeBrusk in game 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's stupid. It's inconsistent. I don't get it, and it's not even just that game. There are just certain calls in other games that I've seen where I'm just like, why are they calling this in the playoffs? Just call the egregious stuff. I mean, they should find a balance and keep it that way for the regular season and the playoffs. So this way, there's not this inconsistent medium that the referees seem to have every damn postseason, because it always happens that way. So why don't they just call it to a certain point and just keep it that way the whole year? There wouldn't be any problems like this.
Anthony, last word on that?
Well, so I guess, John, that was yours too. The officiating was surprising you.
Yeah,
No.
that was the officiating.
Well, I mean, what's surprising me? No, I was just commenting on Mark's. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to clarify. Yeah, before you went to me.
No.
Sorry, then.
What's
Phil,
surprising?
give yours.
I would say it's probably the pace of the games. These games are just so fast paced. I figured they would be a little more like methodical, and it would be more of like kind of like a reminiscent of a 90s like dead puck era type game, because I that's what I thought we were heading into with these teams being the way that they are. But there are just so many chances being traded and stuff, and it just counterattack, chance counterattack, chance counterattack. And I feel like I'm playing like Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting right now on like the highest speed setting, watching these games go on. So I would say that, and it's been entertaining. It really has, for low scoring games. Outside of game 1, obviously, they've been some very entertaining and high paced games. So I'm happy with that.
Surprised me so far the most, I would say, is Letty and Mayfield's ability to kind of neutralize Taylor Hall. I mean, he has one empty net goal this series. I mean, he had the assist on the first Bruins goal yesterday to Smith, but other than that, the Islanders have really neutralized him. And I knew Letty could skate with him, but I wasn't sure. I just wasn't sure how much as a whole they were going to be able to contain him. But that's helped him a lot because, like I said, the perfection line is really hard to handle. If Paul got going too, that would be really bad for the Islanders. But the Islanders have done a great job with kind of taking him out of the series for the most part. So thankfully that's happened, but hopefully it can continue that trend. So we'll see what happens going forward, starting with Game 4 tomorrow.
Phil, I'm still getting that beep, by the way, if you want to just unplug that for right now.
I don't know if I can.
If you can. All right. See if you can.
Charging, so I'm not sure if it's even me, dude.
Oh, he's not? All right. All right, because I thought you said it was you.
My phone's not plugged into anything, so I don't know.
All right. Well, maybe, hopefully it's just something that it won't come up on the final thing. All right.
You know what? I have a feeling I'm going to have to fix this real quick. Sorry.
Go ahead, take your time. I'll mute you in that case for the moment. Okay, so Anthony, who's got to step up for Game 4?
I got to go with Brock Nelson. I know Nelson sang his praises for how awesome he was in round one, but Nelson hasn't been that effective in his first 3 games in round two. He needs to step up. Beauvillier is going. He's still getting his chances. He had a breakaway last night, which if he scored on, that could have changed the complexion of the game. Beauvillier is really buzzing out there, but Nelson needs to step up. I know this time of year a lot of guys are banged up and you take your bumps and bruises. So I don't know if that's the type of thing going on or he's just trying to just really focus defensively, but he needs to, produce some more offense and, really help the Islanders offense get some more pucks in front to Rask and, take away his eyes and just provide more. I just think it needs to be a little bit more of a spark up there for the Islanders.
John, who needs to step up for Game 4?
I'm going to say for the Islanders, Matt Barzal. I know he got his goal last night, but he's going to have to be a real force in Game 4. He has to be, because if they go down in that series, if they go down 3-1, there's no way I see the Islanders coming back and winning the series at that point. I just think Boston's too good to lose 3 games in a row. For Boston, it's going to have to be their entire defensive corps because I can't see how Brandon Carlo plays in Game 4 after that hit. Clean hit, by the way.
He's on Dream Street.
Yeah, he's. I don't think he's playing in Game 4. He definitely seemed like he got another concussion there. I don't even know if he's going to be able to play the rest of the playoffs with the way that he looked. You can definitely see that he was disappointed. He was a little woozy. So Boston's defense in general is going to have to step up and fill the void for his loss for Game 4.
I'm going to go with Semyon Varlamov. If they're going to stick with him, he's got goals going towards. And so it leads us to or did I just hold on?
So you cut out there. You cut out there for a while, Mark.
There.
I'm having trouble with your Wi-Fi. Yeah. All right, I think we're all back. Are we?
I can hear you, yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. So, guys, what a game.
Still cutting out.
Ouch. Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, he was going like badly.
Yeah, he was lagging a lot. Now I can't hear you though.
Yeah, I can't hear you. Yeah. Unmute yourself.
I should probably unmute it.
Yeah.
Yeah, unmute myself. All right. So, guys, Anthony, what's the headline after Game 4?
Well, I gotta believe, I think the series right now is trending similar to Pittsburgh. So hopefully the Islanders take Game 4 tomorrow. Anything can happen, but I don't see them dropping both the Coliseum. So I'm gonna say headline after Game 4 is Islanders offense comes alive and evens up the series at 2. They really need it. I think if they could play the way they did in Game 2 with getting more pucks at Rask, causing more havoc around the net, jamming at pucks and, taking away his eyes, I think they can get a couple more past them, like what they did last time was the 1 goal. So I'm going to say that's my headline for tomorrow. The Islanders take Game 4 and even up the series going back to Boston.
Filk?
I said these two teams were going to split in each other's buildings the first 4 games. So I've got to go with my gut here and say that Sorokin's back in Game 4. He comes back, leads into a victory, and headline says Islanders win, but goaltending controversy continues.
I'm going to go with Islanders lighting up defensively, even the series at 2. All right. But we want to know also what you guys think. Put all your comments below. Are the Bruins dominating the series? Are the Islanders in a goaltending quandary? Just give us all your thoughts. You know what to do. And also always like, share, and subscribe. All right. So moving on to the Bar Talk segment.
I'm going to take a shot on this one.
I'm going to say beer.
I'm buying everybody around on this. Oh my God.
All right, guys. So, of course, as every week, we do all this by choosing topics based on our confidence and our choice of drink. So we're going to start with this one. JG Pageau is the Islanders' leading Conn Smythe candidate right now. And I'll put this over to Miss LaRocco, who suggested this.
So if Sorokin had stayed in, continued playing the way he was, I would say, I mean, just by, the obvious factor, you'd probably have to say him. But I'm gonna say round here. I mean, I know Beauvillier has been really, really good too. Pageau 9 points in the 9 games he's played. He's been crucial on offensive zone draws, defensive zone draws. He's played now that they're at home. He got matched up against perfection line, and not a coincidence. The Islanders played against them better with his forward trio out there against them. So he's been scoring. He's been there defensively. He's a spark plug, energy player, hits, does whatever it takes to win. So I'm gonna go with him over Beauvillier, but it's close. But I'm gonna say Pageau right now would have to be the Islanders' Conn Smythe favorite.
Filk?
Wow, that's actually a good one. I'm gonna say beer, and the reason why I say beer, but I could see why someone would want to buy around on this, is that in 2016 and 2017, Sidney Crosby was not the Pittsburgh Penguins' top scorer, but he took on all the tough matchups, scored while doing so close to a point per game both years, and somehow got the Conn Smythe over Matt Murray in 2016, who was really good for them, who I thought should have been the Conn Smythe winner, and Phil Kessel, who was their leading scorer in the playoffs in 2016. Then Evgeny Malkin was absolutely dominant during the 2017 playoff run, and Sidney Crosby still, again, got the Conn Smythe over him. So I can absolutely see the case for JG Pageau. I personally would give it to Anthony Beauvillier because I don't think they get out of that first round without Beauvillier scoring the way that he did against the Penguins. So I'm gonna have to say beer, but I don't blame anybody that picks Pageau here. It's actually a really good choice.
I'm going to go beer as well, but I'm going to say almost the other direction on this. Pageau is certainly a good candidate when you take into account that he's got all the matchups. The Beauvillier is a good one. A guy you look at with the stats, like Josh Bailey's he's their leading scorer in the playoffs every single year, even though he scores like 1. I know, no, don't worry about that. I have the same opinion about Josh Bailey, but again, you look at Anthony Beauvillier, and once Barzal starts scoring, he's going to be right there as another candidate too. The answer is, though, right now, yeah, I'm still going beer. And again, as I always like to say whenever I say his name, fuck you, JG Pageau. It's 2017, or sorry, 2018 with the Rangers. Or sorry, 2017. That 4-goal game. I will forever hate you, JG Pageau. I'm so glad you're a New York Islander. So the perfection line will decide the series. John.
I'm going to buy everybody around on this one. As I said, the Islanders were going to have a lot harder of a time with that line. And I know that they didn't run roughshod the way that they did in game 1, but they've still been productive these last 2 games, and they've still given Pelech and Pulock fits, and you could see it. And you know what? To Pelech and Pulock's credit, they've slowed them down a bit, which is good, and it's kept them in these last 2 games. But they're definitely having quite a bit of success with one of the better defensive pairs in the league. So if that line gets back to close to where they were in game 1, I think the Islanders are in a lot of trouble. So yeah, I would say that, and then I would say Tuukka Rask is probably the next deciding factor. So I'm gonna buy everybody around on this.
Anthony.
Ooh, this is so close because I'm going back and forth between Round and Beer only because I know John just mentioned the goaltending. I think the goaltending might decide this series too because I mean look at it game 2, Rask let in 4 goals, the Islanders won. Last game, close game, 1-1 game, and one of the reasons why Boston won because of a terrible goal let in by Varlamov. So I think goaltending is going to play a huge factor in this series going forward. But at the same time, the perfection line will have their hand in it too. So this one really, really is a close one. But I guess I'll go Beer just because I'm giving the slight edge to the goaltending on this one. I think the goaltending really, really has already impacted the series greatly. But yeah, the perfection line's been really good too. I think they have given Pelech and Pulock fits. I thought specifically Pelech's been a little better. Game 2 he was good. I thought actually last game 3 he was a monster last night. I thought he played really well. He had that one really nice hit against Pasternak. That grew a pretty loud ovation. I don't know what period it was in, but he was physical. He was on pucks. But yeah, I like I said, it's really, really close. But I'm gonna go goaltending, so I'm gonna go Beer on this.
Quick one.
Go ahead, Filk.
To say a quick one before you go, Mark. I definitely agree with you on Pelech. I think Pelech's been the best defenseman in this series, not named Charlie McAvoy.
So the second best defenseman in this series.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna go again. I gotta agree. It's a Beer, because it's either going to be the perfection line or the goaltending, and the goaltending. If you make the stop, great. That's what you need. That's Semyon Varlamov was 1 save away from keeping the game going. The other thing though is you then look at game 5 when the perfection line got rolling, and they just flexed their muscle, took over the game, swept everybody away. Yeah, no, I think it's going to be the goaltending. Not saying that these guys aren't going to be able to do that as well. The New York Rangers will be the Toronto Maple Leafs in 5 years. Anthony, I'm going to start you.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go shot only because I'm taking this question in the context of just absolutely choking year after year. I mean, I don't see the Rangers doing that or really any team reaching that type of embarrassment that the Maple Leafs have over the last couple of years. I mean, like cap wise, I mean, in that maybe, but no, I mean the Maple Leafs have just continued to choke year after year. I mean, this year it was like, oh, we're in the North Division, we're gonna cruise through this thing, which they did, and like, oh, we have a free pass to the the Final Four, being who was in our division, and they just, I mean, completely just fell apart against Montreal. I mean, it was actually quite astonishing to see.
Picked Montreal in 7.
Yeah, I know. Me and Phil, we both picked the Habs at 7. Oh, I got nervous there for a while. I'm like, well, that's gonna blow.
Somebody picked the Leafs in 5.
I'm 5.
Yes, I'm back to the Leafs in a minute here. But in specific to this question, I'm gonna say no. I mean, yeah, anything's possible, but I just don't see a team doing what the Maple Leafs done, since really, you'd say, 2013 on, really, more specifically the last 3 or 4 years. But yeah, I don't see that happening.
Filk.
I think in order to just answer this question in a very short manner, you could just easily post a video clip from Little John's shots video and just have it play on repeat. But since we're actually going to get into like breaking this down and stuff like that, and we're gonna be somewhat formal about it. I'm just going to ask you if you're the one that posed that question, because if so,
I did.
Oh, you did? All right, so you definitely have a career in stand-up comedy then. Yeah, but no, I honestly, I've been taught throughout my life, on a somewhat serious note, to learn from others' mistakes. And I've had people in my life that I could say that I've learned from their mistakes and not to do it. And I'm pretty sure that Chris Drury will learn from Kyle Dubas's mistakes. You know, I'm not sure if Kyle Dubas survives this offseason, even though Shanahan seems to want to take another few runs with the same core. I don't get it.
Yeah, based on his comments the other day.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe that or not. But if they do, I mean, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, or no, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. But yeah, I there's no way that Rangers become the Toronto Maple Leafs. See ya. Better drafting. They've already addressed the positions that Toronto seems to refuse to address: defense, goaltending. So they're already not the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're just not there yet because they don't have a bunch of 24-year-old superstars, 3 core players yet. So they'll get there, and they won't be the Maple Leafs.
Okay, so that's a shot, right?
Yeah, that's
Just
why
making sure.
Little John video,
Okay. Oh, the shots. Oh, I should have just put that up. I'm gonna go with everybody. Okay.
Everybody.
I'm gonna go with shot 2 because they better not be. They could easily make mistakes, sign free agents that they shouldn't, overpay for the players that they already have, and then be in a division where you're at best a third place team. Like, that's the other part of this. That's what's even worse. They're the Maple Leafs, and this will be part of the next question that's going to come up. But I mean, the Maple Leafs have a ceiling. They're not getting any further. They were first place team this year. Yay! But
Yeah, but that was just because of the North Division. They wouldn't have posed the record they had if it was the normal Atlantic Division. No way.
right, like you take Carolina come back into the Metropolitan next year, and you're going to put them back in the Atlantic. I mean, so again, shot for the Rangers. Learn from Toronto. They're a cautionary tale. More on that in a little bit. By the way, before I announce this next one, if you noticed my Live Over Par hat right here, follow Live Over Par on Instagram. It's about golf memes. It's from my friend who's sitting right over here, who's reading and being very quiet right now as I do this. Okay, guys, Toronto needs to tear it down. Anthony.
Well, tear it down, no, but so in the specific of this question, tear it down. I'll go shot there, but what they do need to do is they need to reform their team a little bit. Listen, they're too top heavy. I said it the other day when we were talking in our group chat. You go in cap friendly and you add up the cap hits of Marner, Matthews, Tavares, Nylander, you're just about at 40 million. When your cap's 80, 81, whatever it is, half the cap on 4 guys, all forwards too. It's just it's not going to work in this era. And I don't know, I think it was EJ Raddick. I was watching NHL Live yesterday, and he said that when they were talking about it, he said from the start he didn't think they needed to go out and sign John Tavares because, and if you look at it, he's right. They had Matthews, Kadri, Nylander, all centers. That's a formidable 3. You did not need to add John Tavares. I don't know if it was because Kyle Dubas took over and he wanted to be a big shot and know the lore of signing a guy who, who's from Toronto and, whole hometown story. He thought it was a good feeling. Oh, yeah, rah, 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 good story. Let's sign him. Like, you didn't need to do that. Think about it. $11 million. They could have spent that and got a very, very formidable, let's say, top pair defenseman, and then still had money left over to get like a good second line goal scorer or whatever. They could have just handled that so much differently. And now they're stuck because if you look at it, if you break down their big four, you're not trading Matthews. I mean, he's one of the best players in the game, elite goal scorer. You're just simply not moving him. Then you go to Tavares. Realistically, out of the four, you could say, yeah, maybe you want to move him because he's the oldest. His numbers are going down a little bit, but no one's taking that contract. He's got four. So you got 4 or 5 more years left on that deal at $11 million. No one's taking that contract unless you attach some really good assets to it. So you're not really going to move him. That leaves Nylander and Marner, and both good players. But even Marner was great. He was in the top 5 in scoring this year. So like he's a really good player. But do you want to move a guy like that? I don't know. So they're going to have to make a decision on which guy they move, Nylander or Marner. That's what it comes down to for me. And then what I would do, I wouldn't even trade him for an equivalent player. I would move him for like picks and prospects, so you could really make use of that cap space, and then go out and kind of retool after that. But I know some people, I know I mentioned it too, but more people are talking about it now, is making a straight across trade for Seth Jones, which I could see. I mean, I get the premise of it, but I don't know, man. I mean, they need better goaltending. I know Jack Campbell was good for them in the regular season. He had good numbers, but I don't think he's the answer in goal. Freddie Anderson's a UFA. I don't know they're going to be bringing him back, and even if they did, I don't think he's the guy either. Their defense, I mean, I don't know. Morgan Riley's good, but I mean, he's not the best defensively. Travis Dermott. I mean, Jake Muzzin's good. He got hurt, which is a big loss for them. But overall, they have a lot of issues. And one of the knocks on them was that they've always been soft. So they got like Wayne Simmons, and they added him. Nick Foligno. They added experience with Joe Thornton, Spezza. Still didn't work out. So you know what? They have a lot of a lot of questions to answer because their fan base is getting impatient, and it's either fire Dubas or you make that move where you move one of the big four. So it's going to be really interesting what they do, but boy, do they need to do something. So to answer this all, tear it down, no shot, but they do need to they need to split up that top 4 big guys.
Filk.
I'm in the same exact boat for Anthony. A lot of things that he said were just bang on, literally spot on, 100%. The thing that I think about, and you brought up the whole Tavares thing, because if they didn't sign John Tavares and they kept Nazem Kadri and they kept the core that they had, you could have taken that $11 million that you given to John Tavares, and you probably would have had Alex Pietrangelo. And Alex Pietrangelo would have done a hell of a lot more for that team than John Tavares could. So you're looking at that. Also to add to the whole Seth Jones trade idea to Toronto, you have I would put together this proposal. I would say if I'm Toronto, and I know a lot of people are not going to be happy about the idea of dealing Mitch Marner, but I would deal Mitch Marner to Columbus, Seth Jones, Alexander Texier, and Columbus's 5th overall pick in this year's draft. And if I'm Toronto at that point, I take Jesper Wallstedt. I take Wallstedt. You get your franchise goalie, you get a center in Texier, who could also play wing, and you get Seth Jones on defense. Because remember, you gotta give Morgan Riley a new deal if you're going to keep him. So do you
1 year away?
Well, and give him close to $10 million? Because I don't think he's personally worth that. I think he's a very good puck mover, but I think defensively he's really not good at all. I don't like him in his own zone. I think the advanced stats would probably support that as well, because I know the eye test definitely does. And I mean, you gotta include Riley as part of their core as well. I know everybody talks about the big 4, but Riley's part of that fantastic 5, if you will, if you want to call it that. So again, no, Toronto does not need to tear it down, but they need to make a significant move to shake things up here, because they're not going to win with what they have. And it's funny because Dubas went out and addressed things that they needed addressed. He went out and addressed the lack of veteran leadership. He brought in Thornton. He brought in Spezza. He brought in Simmons, but he brought in guys that, Foligno, they never won cups. They never won. They don't have a winning culture there, and I think that's the biggest problem with that team, is they don't have a winning culture. And you know what? You could say what you want about Mike Babcock, but Mike Babcock knew how to win. And then you brought in a lesser experienced coach who doesn't know how to win at this level, and that doesn't help that group either. So, I maybe it's not just the players, but maybe Sheldon Keefe needs to be replaced by a more veteran, experienced coach. Does Toronto look at Rick Tocchet? Do they look at Rod Brindamore? If Rod Brindamore becomes available, Rod Brindamore should have probably about, I would say, at least 20 teams knocking at his door if Carolina somehow can't fork over the money, if Dundon wants to play cheap with them or something. So no shot, but Toronto definitely needs to make a significant move or moves.
I'll be quick about this because we got to start speeding up. But I'm actually going to go off the beer on this because that needs to be considered. How are you going to do that? It's not going to really be feasible. And also, when you talk about it, you have two of the best young players in the game in Marner and Matthews, and you can figure that out. Again, the Tavares thing shouldn't have happened. They didn't need him. They did it for the publicity, and they were trying to go over the top with one more player. You never address the back end. The back end has always been a disaster for them. Now, as far as the other reason why I'm going up here on this is, where did they go from here? I have no idea where they go. Like, you're going to get better than Tampa. You're not going to get better than Boston. You're not going to be like, what are they doing? That's why I'm completely lost. I don't know what it is, because Sheldon Keefe, is he the problem? Dubas was given A grades by a lot of newspapers and pundits for what he did at the deadline. So it's like, even when they make the right moves, they're still wrong. So, okay. Vegas has a chance to win the series. I'll start it. Shot. Sorry. I like the way Vegas played versus Colorado 2 nights ago, but they're just, Colorado's just too much for them. And then wait till they get back Andre. I mean, the first game they blew their doors off. The second game, Vegas needed that game. Vegas needed that game bad. And carrying on for, they haven't played well since Game 4 versus Minnesota. That was the last time they actually really played well. I know they won Game 7, but they were Filk?
Shot. I picked Vegas in 7. I thought that the goaltending and the defense would favor them, but like you said, no Nazem Kadri, and they blew the doors off of them in Game 1. In Game 2 was a close game, and Vegas gave a much better effort, and they still lost. So I've got to say shot here.
Anthony?
So I picked Vegas in my playoff pool to win the cup, and being down 2-0 right now doesn't look good for them. But I'm gonna go beer, only because they are going back home to the Fortress, which is one of the best atmospheres in the league. They're gonna have 100% capacity for games 3 and 4, so that's gonna be a huge plus for them. They were tied with Colorado for the best team in the league. They allowed the least amount of goals, so they are a good defensive team. Being at home, I think that'll help them regroup. That said, at this point, I still think Colorado wins the series, but because this question has a chance, yeah, they have a chance. They're a very good team themselves. Like I said, they're going back home. But one thing to point out, too, I think that hurt them is they went through a 7-game series with Minnesota, whereas Colorado ran through the Blues like X-Lax, and they were rested. And, you kind of saw it early in Game 1. But I made a joke to my friend. It's like, Colorado's going to go 16-0 and win the cup, aren't they? Because that's how it seems they are right now. Like, they're like juggernauts right now. It's, it's crazy to see. And I feel bad for whatever poor bastard team Montreal or Winnipeg wins, because that winner faces the winner of Colorado and Vegas, and Colorado.
Yeah, they're They're losing in
on their
3.
hands in the in the third round. So we'll see. Yeah, but no, they do have a chance. But I think Colorado's going to win it.
All right, forgive the wording on this because this was from last night, and given the outcome, it's not about Florida or Carolina. Tampa is just that much better. Sean.
Buying everybody around. Tampa, you know what? Carolina may have won in overtime, but that was the best effort they put up all series, and they scraped by a win barely. They were outplayed in that game. I'm not going to say that they didn't deserve to win the game, but they were absolutely outplayed in that game. Tampa had some slow moments where Carolina took advantage. Tampa's not going to come out the same way in Game 4. They're just not, and they're gonna win that game. And I think they're going to win this in 5. I had Tampa winning it in 6, but it's round. Tampa is just literally that much better.
Anthony.
I'm gonna go beer just because the 2 games that Tampa did win, they were 2-1 games. So Carolina were in both of those games. And that one goal, it was game 2. Nedeljkovic let up a goal that you would think it was Varlamov in that was a terrible goal that he let up. So they were really close games. One bounce here, one bounce there. Game could have went the other way. So I'm don't get me wrong, Tampa Bay is the better team, but because of all 3 games have been so close, that's why I'm not quite ready to go round. So I'm gonna go beer for that reason. But I do still think that Tampa Bay is the better team and still ultimately will win the series.
I'm gonna go round that. I don't think it's if they end up winning in 5. It's again, this is no knock on Florida, Carolina. Tampa is just a juggernaut. They're almost on a collision course for Colorado, and the fact that they've played already 2 good teams. Carolina is my pick to win the Stanley Cup. They might not even get to the 3rd round. And I would love it if that happens because I like to be right. But it's tough to see. Again, teams that lose the first 2 games at home, the last team to do it, to come back in a series like that, was the Capitals in 2018 versus the Columbus Blue Jackets. So it just ain't going to happen. All right. Ready for some fireworks, everybody? Mark Scheifele deserved an in-person hearing. Anthony?
Well, he got 4 games, and I actually think that's sufficient. My worry is he was going to get 1 game or so. I thought it needed to be much more than that. In person just would have meant they would have been able to suspend him for 5 or more if they wanted to. I'll go with shot on this one, but I am happy he got 4 games. Like I said, I think that suffices. I think it was a predatory hit in nature. I thought that he showed really no regard for Jake Evans, and it was late. The puck was ready in the net. I know you could say things that move at a fast pace, but if you look at it, it was definition of a charge. The guy made a beeline for Evans essentially from his own zone with only really one intention. Because, like I said yesterday, the guy's been playing hockey for a long time. When you're realistically close enough to prevent the goal. Everyone knew and their mother knew that Evans was putting that puck in the net. The only thing Evans didn't do was he didn't, when he was curling around the net, he didn't really lift his head up just to look. So, yeah, but come on. Scheifele knew he was going to score that goal. If you look at the still frame, some of the pictures that people have taken, he wasn't even looking at the puck. He really kind of had his shoulder lowered, ready to make impact with him. He knew what he was going to do, and like I said, it was predatory. It was just dirty play altogether. I mean, maybe the principal point of contact may not have been the head, but it was dirty in the sense of the thought process in doing it, and the how he just deleted him. He went right through him. He didn't hold up. It was ugly. And also you also got to take into consideration his mindset. He was furious about the play earlier. He went to the penalty box. He was throwing a tantrum. He kicked something. He had that look in his eyes. He was mad. He was frustrated that he was held in check. He just wanted to lay a big hit and really destroy somebody, and that's what he did. So The George Powell Stefanik got this one right, sends a message, and kudos to him. And now it's a big loss for the Jets.
More on George Paris in a moment.
Well, yeah, I had to get my Matt Hardy reference in there when you said delete, because that was the first thing that the wrestling fan in me figured. So, yeah, I'm going to say shot as well, just for the question itself, because George Paros, I don't know. Are you replaced? Like, if this was like Scooby-Doo, I think that they would unmask George Paros, and it would probably be Colin Campbell instead of George Paros under the mask, because they actually got this one right for some weird reason. 4 games is definitely good for Scheifele. He deserved that. As Anthony said, predatory hit, as I've explained in our group chat. If you really wanted to stop that, you dive. Stick extended. You dive. And I know I put the picture in there. You wanna put that in the video.
I'll put it on the edited video. Yes.
You can see where Scheifele is when the puck goes into the net, and that's actually still even maybe about a second or two after the puck is already in the net. So Scheifele has time to lay up, and when you're that good of a skater, you can definitely cut and stop on a dime. And if Scheifele didn't have the intention of doing that, then he could have. So absolutely predatory hit. Like you said, principal contact may not have been head, but still head contact. There was clear intent to injure, unnecessary hit. Stupid and senseless, because not only if that goal, even if the goal gets prevented, you're getting a charging penalty considering where he went from and where he went to and the amount of time that he did. And then you're still putting your team down by a man, which basically essentially ends that game. And then if there is a suspension, look at what you've done. So Mark Scheifele basically might have just costed his team this series. Now it's on Pierre-Luc Dubois, puts an unnecessary amount of pressure on him to step up and be the guy. There's no Jack Roslovich there anymore. If their center depth clearly isn't as good. Now you're asking for what, Adam Lowry to be a number 2 center, or Andrew Kopp? It's not right. Scheifele was, and not only that, but if you saw the look on his face, he had a manic and crazed look after the hit when they were trying to separate him. And good on Nikolai Ehlers for shielding everybody away from Evans, because that a hell of a lot worse if somebody fell on him. So
well, that was good of Ehlers.
Yeah, that was really, really a smart move on Nikolai Ehlers, and I think that needs to be praised and lauded a lot more, because Nikolai Ehlers actually gave a damn about his well-being. So, I would say shot for the question itself, but somehow DOPS got it right.
First, I'm going to go the opposite way. We've been talking about this and how unreasonable I could be about this, but no, he definitely didn't deserve an in-person hearing. So this shot right there. You have to look at a suspension being double the amount of games in the playoffs. So it's not 4, it's 8 in the regular season. So in other words, he deserved 8-game suspension for this. Yes, it was a predatory hit. Yeah, you could throw him. You could throw him for 1. On the other hand, he was throwing the hit because as soon as that puck was going in the net, the game's over. So that's where the intensity was up also. If Evans went around the other, stopped and got the other side of the net, but he was also leaning over. When he's leaning over to get that wrap around, he actually lowered himself. So then it was going to get worse no matter what. We talked about it before. My opinion is you slide on it, then you end up probably taking out his knees or sliding into the boards and hurting both of you. I'm not. And again, the other part about this with Mark Scheifele is he has 0 record. 0. There is nothing he has done before. So you want to give him 1? Fine. 2? Fine. They just handed Montreal the series. Marc Bergevin is jumping up and down, jumping for joy. I mean, Carey Price is like, oh, shit, I don't even have to deal with Mark Scheifele anymore. Maybe it's you're deciding the outcome of the series in an office right now. And I agree with what you guys have told me that he wasn't trying to play the puck. I agree with that. But you also just can't I don't know what he was supposed to do there. Just let him score? I'll ask that question.
Explain that.
If there's a goalie in net, is this the same situation?
I don't know if you can really ask that question or if it even holds relevance in this situation, because of the fact that, listen, if you're trying to prevent that goal, what's going to give you a better chance of stopping it? Reaching out with your stick and diving well ahead of time and still being able to have a chance to keep your hands up to protect you from going into the boards and hurting yourself head first, or blasting the guy and having to take about 3 to 5 extra strides to get to a player that's probably going to already score a goal by the time that you get there. What's gonna prevent that goal?
Yeah, he committed to the hit. He committed to the hit long before the wraparound started. So
listen, if he dives and takes himself and Evans out, and Evans probably just falls, he gets tripped up. You know, if he gets hurt that way, okay, then Scheifele's intent was clearly to play the puck at that point, and we're not having this discussion, and he's not suspended. He didn't think about it. He was in a
4-game suspension.
Like
Anthony,
it was yeah, because I understand he had no history, but it was a really ferocious hit. Really, I mean, it was. I mean, what do you think he was going to happen? He was coming in with so much speed, right head on for Evans. Like, he knew when he was hit him. What do you think was going to happen? Evans was going to laugh and he was going to not fall down. I mean, he absolutely destroyed him. He didn't let up. There was no let up. He just ran right through him. And the thing, the puck was in the net before he even made contact with him. So he had the opportunity to either A, avoid it altogether by stopping, or just kind of like just using your momentum and just turn the other way, or if you want, you could still kind of give him a shove or whatnot, but he didn't let up. He just continued to go right through him, and that's all on him. And I think he got the 4 games because it really was a dangerous play. I mean, Evans was, you saw Evans was out before he hit the ice. I mean, he was out of it when he hit the ice, and that's a dangerous play, because at that point you can't use your arms to brace yourself, and the guy hit awkwardly on his neck. It could have been much worse. And look at Rich Pilon and Kevin Stevens when they collided. How dangerous that was. Stevens was
nasty.
out. Stevens was out, and when that's the
and
danger
that was a clean
when
hit.
something like that happens. If you land on your face with your shield, it's all over. So. It was really dangerous. It was really predatory, and I think 4 games is spot on. I think next time maybe he'll, not just him, but other players in the future will hopefully have that in mind and question themselves before they go to do something like that. Again, my whole thing goes back to, he knew he was scoring. The puck was in the net before he hit him, and he hit him anyway. And to me, that's a big no-no.
All right, just before we get out of this, and going on to the other part of this conversation, is that 4-game suspension more on the hits, or is it more on the result? Because I still haven't gotten an update from Evans. Has anybody found out what's going on with him?
Yeah, they said that yesterday he was resting in his hotel room, and he's out indefinitely, has a concussion, but he's okay. He's recovering.
All right, so that's at least the good news right there. But is the suspension more about the result?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, like I said, I think this is the one time they've actually gotten it right. Like, if they want to send a message and they want to be hard on these guys and stop them from making these types of hits, the Nazem Kadri hit, obviously, he got suspended for 8 games. He has a history. Then this is the way to do it. Send a message, stand up, show that you actually have some stones in your pants, just send a message. And they haven't done that over the years. And they've let the actions of plays like this go unpunished. I'm happy that they did something that shows that they're not afraid to punish a star player. Now what they need to do is, the next time Tom Wilson does this, they need to be consistent and just absolutely put the band hammer down on Tom Wilson.
I think it was more about the mentality of why I got him 4 games, because I think, like I said, you know, I think it's clearly evident that they thought that Scheifele had it in his intention to just destroy Evans there. Because, again, he's a hockey player. He's smart. He knew what he was doing. He knew what was going to happen if he hit him the way he did at that speed, and he did it anyway. So that's why I think he got the 4 games. I mean, the injury probably definitely played a role in it, but I think it was more so the mentality of Scheifele's mind state at the time rather than the hit itself. So,
To the other half of this equation, George Parros is consistent with his suspensions. And I'll start us off. Shot. Oh my God, I have no idea who's getting suspended for what. Like, Sam Bennett got 1 game. We already documented last month that punching a guy when you have him into the ice and then body slamming an NHL star gets you a $5,000 fine. And also how George Parros doesn't even know how to pronounce the word safety. I mean, now you get Nassau Coliseum, who got 8 games. Good. And Nassau Coliseum, that was a predatory hit, and he's a known offender. As we're just documenting just now, and I was saying, look, we got the hit, but Mark Scheifele's never been suspended before in his life. And it's 4 games already in the playoffs. Bye. Okay. You know what? I'll buy your explanations on that. But there are so many different things that are just, you don't know what's a suspension anymore or what's going to be the length of one. So, Phil, step on in.
Yeah. I'm buying everybody shots on this. Shots. Because George Parros, I don't know how he got this one correct, but I mean, thankfully he did. But there's no consistency here. Tom Wilson, I mean, and they put up that picture of what the definition of a repeat offender is, and when Kadri got the suspension, okay, so then how does Tom Wilson not fall under the same exact parameters? There's no consistency here with any of their definitions. There's no consistency here with their rulings. There's nothing. There's no consistency whatsoever. So, I mean, if George Parros deserves to keep his job, which I don't think he does, then maybe he'll start. Oh, what the view right there. That is nice.
Yeah.
But, perfect.
There's a fountain behind me.
The view right there. Nice. But yeah, if George Parros deserves to keep his job, then he's going to have to start being far more consistent with what he does with these rulings, because there's no definition. You're right. You don't know what's suspendable anymore. You don't know, because there's no standard set. There's no bar that has been set and agreed upon, because they just don't know what to rule from one case to the next. So there's no consistency at all. I don't know what happened with Anthony, but
maybe I had to run to the bathroom or something. Well, hopefully not much to worry about with that. Give it 2 more seconds. See whether or not he's coming back on. But you know what? Finish that thought, John. I didn't get it.
No, I was gonna say why wasn't Tom Wilson suspended? I
Still don't know why.
We still don't know why, and that's another thing. We don't have explanations for these things. When they don't suspend somebody, there's no explanation. When they do suspend somebody, there's an explanation. These guys have to be they have to be held accountable for what they do. You know, referees should be held accountable for the calls that they make, and they should have to explain themselves, because you have everybody sitting here wondering what the hell is going on. And these guys are just running around doing whatever the hell they want, just saying, "Oh, well, you know, this is suspendable." You know, why hasn't, you know, Brad Marchand been suspended more often for slew foots? You know, like Sidney Crosby hacked Mark Mathat's the tip of his finger off, and then they start calling the slashes differently because of him, but they didn't suspend Sidney Crosby for it.
Oh, no.
It makes no sense.
Which, again, I mean, even a 1-game suspension would have at least sent a message. That's the thing about that. You were talking about in the last segment, suspending a superstar Scheifele. that actually sends a good statement. It's just, again, you don't know one day or another what the suspensions are going to be and what the fines are going to be. That's not going to work. It's just not how it's going to be. All right. We'd also like to know your thoughts on everything. Put it all in the comments down below. Do you think Scheifele should have been suspended longer or less? Why would you think that? Should Toronto tear it down? Are you worried the Rangers are going to be the Maple Leafs? I certainly are going to be, because we'll get to that in a moment. And is Pageau really a Conn Smythe leader? I don't know. We'll see about that. All right. Since Anthony isn't here, I'll jump right into my editorial. I'm gonna just look around real quick. Yeah. Just wondering how loud I could be out in and just again look at all this. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It all looks nice. It's the golf course right behind me.
Rub it in.
Well, next week is going to be Arizona, so here we go.
This prediction that's right up here.
Being single most of my life.
Or just yell at Larry Brooks like every other New York Ranger has.
Okay, so one of the things I was getting at before is that there's a cautionary tale for the New York Rangers when it comes to looking at the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's the way they should always take it. That the Maple Leafs should be the blueprint to what not to do, as I'm still trying to put up my my banner that I have, but there we go. Never just look at the Toronto Maple Leafs as a cautionary tale. They built a roster full of young stars. They signed a big damn time free agent, and then they never addressed certain position deficiencies. As far as the Rangers should be looking at it, is don't make the mistakes Toronto did. Don't oversign your stars right away. Keep them like lower on their contracts. Don't squander assets. Don't trade away guys or think you're further ahead in the rebuild. Now, I think they're still really close. Possibly. I mean, especially now that they got rid of David Quinn. But the Maple Leafs made a ton of mistakes. And that's what the Rangers always have to be looking at them at. Because you don't want to just sit back and just say, oh, plan the parade. Because there is no shortage of magazines, YouTube videos saying how bright of a future the Toronto Maple Leafs have. Because here we are, 5 years after Austin Matthews was drafted. And now, where are they? Do we want to have the same questions with Alexei Lafreniere, with Capo Caco, with their coaching, with their executive management? And that's why you still have to put your faith in Chris Drury to figuring out the identity of this team. Because I'll tell you what, the Maple Leafs identity was just run and gun, because that's all they had. And that's not going to work. Not in today's NHL. So the Rangers take a good look in the mirror and also take a look what happened north of the border. You don't want to be them. And you want to have a plan of what you want this team to be. John.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. You don't want to become Toronto. You don't want to become top heavy, and that's why I said shot before, because I don't think they're going to become that. I think they're going to manage the cap better. Even if they trade for Jack Eichel, assets will have to go back in return that you'll eventually have to pay one day. So I posed this in a group DM that I'm in on Twitter. Why would you not want to send some of those assets for someone like Jack Eichel instead of holding on to them and send them for lesser players in the future? To me, that's the issue. I don't think that they'll have to worry about that, because I think Chris Drury understands, Toronto. I think he'll look at Toronto, and I think he won't make those same mistakes. So I think that the Rangers are also in a better position because they've also got the pieces that Toronto just doesn't have. Like Rasmus Sandin looks good for Toronto. He looks like he's legit. He looks good. Timothy Liljegren really hasn't made that next jump yet, and he was drafted in 2017. You want to see something from him by now. Sandin was drafted a year later and has already played games regularly for Toronto. So if I'm Toronto, I might be a little worried about Liljegren. They have Nick Robertson waiting, so a Mitch Marner trade is actually more viable with Nick Robertson in the system. And then, they still haven't addressed the goaltending. That's why I proposed that trade with Columbus, with the 5th overall pick, Jones, and maybe Texier for Mitch Marner, because Robertson can step in and play top 6 minutes with those guys. And he's probably going to put up points. He'll be a Calder candidate next year if that happens. And then you'll have Jones to come in, help on defense with, Riley and Brody there and Justin Hall or, Jake Muzzin. That makes their defense even deeper. But you got to address the goaltending. That's another thing. You got to address the goaltending. So I think if they do that, I think Toronto will be a much better team. But the Rangers definitely know what not to do. And Pittsburgh was like this for a while too. They were Crosby, Malkin, Kessel, Letang, Fleury. Those 5 guys took up a lot of their cap. And for a while, in the earlier part of the previous decade, from like 2000, I would say 10 to 2015, they weren't winning cups because, they were guys there that were just making too much money. And then you saw Fleury gone, you saw Kessel gone. And I know they won with, those 5, but it prevented them from making other moves that they could have made. And that's why, Kessel ended up leaving, because of his lack of chemistry with Malkin and so on. And it just, you don't want to become those teams, and I don't think the Rangers will become those teams. And welcome back, Anthony.
Yeah, my dad called. My mom went into the hospital yesterday because she started the chemo again and everything, and she's not feeling well. She's still like nauseous and throwing up and going to the bathroom, and the doctor said that she should go to the hospital because he doesn't think it's the chemo doing it. He thinks there might be something else going on. So they gotta do some more tests and see what the deal is.
Sorry to hear that, Ant.
Yeah, man, sorry.
Yeah, so I gotta call my mom now and just see how she's feeling, and then contact my brother and sister, because Mather right now they're only allowing like 2 visitors a day, so I gotta like call them and see if any of them went, because I don't want to go there and then not let me in because they already went. It's really stupid ass rule they got right now. It's ridiculous. So
yeah, it's there's a lot of those right now, but we also understand why.
Yeah, so I gotta deal with that now. I'm just, the gastro doctor is gonna go in and see her. They gotta do some tests. I just hope that it's nothing serious. That she's just, I don't know. I don't know what to think, because again, her doctor said he doesn't think it's the chemo that's making her feel that way. So I have no idea then why that's happening. So.
All right. Well, also, by the way, thanks for sharing it with us. You didn't have to do that on the broadcast, so
Yeah.
it's thank you.
So
yeah, what we were talking about is how, what I was saying before about how the Rangers always look at Toronto as a very cautionary tale, that they should definitely try to avoid becoming them, because they could very easily do that. All it takes is one bad free agent signing, like Jacob Trouba. Take, for instance, you get another Jacob Trouba on there. You were talking about this before, Filk, where you had Henrik. People were killing Henrik Lundqvist back in the days. He was making $8 million, right? 8.5, I think. Yeah, and they were killing him for it, and it was just like, you have Jacob Trouba making $8 million, taking up that much of the cap, and you're not getting the production you thought they were going to get out of him. But then again, it's because Adam Fox is now a number 1 point man. D'Angelo took his position last year. It's you need to make sure when you spend the money, you spend it wisely. So, and that's what they got to do. It's not just a matter of, they got cap space. Now they got to re-sign guys. You also got to identify the assets you want to keep. Recently, I've been talking about Filkin they got a decision to make with him. You're going to protect him in the expansion draft, or you just let him go for nothing. So,
yeah, I got the text.
Yeah, yes. So, but fortunately, I'm going to actually be signing off soon as well, because we were going to do some. Actually, do you have an editorial first?
I can make it a quick one.
Shoot. Oh, wait. I need your entrance. And also not to have the banner on while I do that.
You're going nowhere. You're going nowhere.
Then there's no. I'm looking at you, Jim.
I'm gonna hear the name and I'm gonna get PTSD.
But the cream will rise to the top. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's that time again. So I'm just going to spout off for a few seconds about what I'm seeing from Nathan MacKinnon, because Nathan MacKinnon is tied for the league lead in postseason scoring with 13 points in 6 games, which makes him a 2-point-per-game player, which is close to the level that he was scoring at in last postseason. Last postseason, he was on pace, if he would have made the Stanley Cup Finals, to be the 3rd player in NHL history to score 40 or more points in a single postseason. I imagine you know who the other 2 are. I don't really think I need to mention names there. They're considered the 2 best players to play the game. So, what I'm seeing from Nathan MacKinnon right now is what Connor McDavid needs to be doing. He needs to be that guy that's a bull in a china shop. He needs to be running around and throwing his weight, but also playing defensively. I think Nathan MacKinnon has got everything that it takes to be an absolute winner. And in 2 years, I believe after this season, his deal is up, and he's going to require a whole bunch of money. So it's funny you were talking about, Toronto being a cautionary tale. Colorado is going to have some decisions to make in these next upcoming years as well. But Nathan MacKinnon has just been, he is one of the best postseason scorers I think I've ever seen in my life. He's got a ridiculous postseason record already. It just keeps getting better and better. And he is the driving force behind the Colorado Avalanche. Even with Nazem Kadri out, he stepped up his game to an even another level. And maybe Nathan MacKinnon is the first player to crack 35 or more points in a postseason since Mario Lemieux in 1991. We haven't seen a 35 point postseason or better since. Brian Leetch at 34 and 94. We've had others that have broken 30 since, including Kuznetsov, Crosby and Malkin in 2009. But we've never seen somebody break 35 since Lemieux in 91, and that was his 40-point postseason. So, we're talking about a next-level type of player right now. He's clearly the 2nd best player in the league behind Connor McDavid, but he's also clearly the best postseason player in the league. And there's no debate to it right now. We're seeing somebody who's on another level, and it's a treat to watch him. He goes out there, he puts up the points, he scores the goals, but he's also down low making the defensive plays. He's that absolute handful along the boards. He's somebody that I think I wish the Rangers had right now. I would trade a king's ransom to get him up. I wouldn't even think twice about it. But he's not going anywhere. Colorado's going to re-up him. And, I love what I've seen from him so far. And I honestly kind of hope that he continues this crazy point-per-game pace, because I want to see somebody get close to where Gretzky and Lemieux were in those days. Because I just want to see it. I want to imagine the madness and the discussions that'll be had if he somehow gets to that level.
Here's just first off, I gush about the bargain Mika Zibanejad's contract is, and Nathan MacKinnon made Mika Zibanejad look I mean, his contract, he's what is it, 6.5, 6.7,
6
something
point,
like that.
I think.
Oh, and he signed for another 2
Is
years.
Ew.
Was it?
Leon was only at like 8.5, somewhere in that range, and I think he's got like 3 or 4 years left on his.
Yeah, because he signed for big money right after McDavid did. McKinnon is such a beast. I know in my predictions I said that if Colorado won the cup, I was going to give it, because sometimes the Conn Smythe goes like the dark horse guy that you don't think is going to win because the superstar gets shut down. It can't be Rantanen. It's gotta be McKinnon. That guy is one of the best money players that there is out there right now.
Yeah, it's just
insane.
What he's doing, we haven't seen in a while. And I know it's 6 games, and you could say, oh well, he'll slow down a bit. Even if he slows down a bit, I mean, if they go all the way to the finals, and let's just say that's a long series, he has a legitimate shot at breaking 40.
The only reason right now, and by the way, he's going to get a Canadian team in the next round.
He's done that.
They'll destroy him. The only reason why he won't break 30 or even 35 might be because they finish off teams too quickly. Like, if he was playing 7-game series, I mean, they still have something to say about it. But if they're playing 7-game series, that would be different. John, before we sign off, can you answer that question?
Oh, well, it's funny you asked that question, Julian, because there's a lot of people looking at players like Aatu Ratu, and I know that the spelling on his name doesn't match the pronunciation, but that's how it's pronounced. It's Ratu, not Rowdy. From Finland. He was at one point a consensus #1 overall pick for this year's draft, like a couple years back. His stock has fallen considerably. I don't get why it's fallen the way that it has. He hasn't played as well, I guess, but I mean, to the point where it has. I still think he's going to be a good second-line center in the NHL. I think that he would be a perfect fit for the Rangers. I know Craig Button, after the draft lottery happened, mocked Chaz Lucius from the U.S. National Developmental Team Program. He mocked him at 15 to the Rangers. That would be a really good pick because I think he's regarded by many as the best goal scorer in the draft. That's definitely something that they need. He plays center, and I think his game is going to translate to the NHL. I think he's a very good, hardworking kid. If you have a subscription to The Athletic, Scott Wheeler just wrote a piece about him and his background, and just a lot of his teammates just talking about how good of a player he is. He's a money player that steps up big time. Fedor Svechkov would be another one that they're looking at in that range. I mean, it's still it's not too early. There are other guys that could possibly fall. This draft is honestly so wide open, but those are 3 guys I think that they would absolutely look at. I'm kind of hoping Lucius falls. I really do, because I really think that they need a goal-scoring center. I like Ryan Strome as a #2 center with Panarin, but if you're going to hinge Mika Zibanejad on one line and Artemi Panarin on the other, Artemi Panarin is more of a playmaker than he is a goal scorer. We all know that. And I'm going to want somebody who's going to score goals to play with Artemi Panarin, because you can't have a guy like Panarin who's going to have the puck half the time and then have him playing with a guy like Strome who tends to defer back to him. You need somebody's got to pull the trigger on that line. And I think Lucius could be that guy. The only problem with this draft is there's 2 things. One, whoever they take is probably at least 2 to 3 years away. The other problem, well, not really a problem, but a question, is if Pitt going to be traded? And a lot of people think that it's going to be traded for Jack Eichel. I've said that myself in the past. I know I've said it on here. I could even see that pick being traded on draft night to Buffalo for Eichel, so that this way Buffalo can make their own pick and take their own player that their scouting staff is happy with or, high on. But with that said, with the news of Eichel and the surgery that he wants to get, teams might take a wait-and-see approach, so trade might be delayed a bit. But at the same time, I know I've mentioned this as well, Eichel has a no-movement clause that kicks in on July 1st of next year. So Kevin Adams has to trade him before that kicks in. Because if he doesn't, he controls his own destiny, chooses where he wants to go, and they have to ask him to waive before he's dealt. So if even if they make the pick, I think that player could be traded to Buffalo as a part of the Eichel deal if the deal doesn't happen on draft night. But there are some guys that really fit in that area. Those three are probably three of the guys that I like. Maybe the Rangers could try to trade up and get into the top 10 and maybe try to see if they can get someone like Simon Edmondson would be a long shot, but I would like him because Owen Power is probably going to go first overall, but Simon Edmondson would be another great defenseman for them to have. Some mock drafts have Dylan Guenther falling in them, and I would be shocked if he fell because I had him as a top 3. And Dylan Guenther is one of the better wings in the draft. And I think he's one of the most talented players in the entire draft.
Why would he be falling?
Honestly, you know what? I don't know exactly why. It makes no sense to me because he was a 2-point-per-game player in the WHL with the Freeze and everything. He had 12 goals and 24 points in 12 games. He was absolutely lighting it up. I'm not saying that he could have maintained that pace for the entire season. It's possible, but to me, he's one of the most talented. I would say one of the top 3 most talented players in the entire draft. I know people talk about Kent Johnson. Kent Johnson would be really good for the Rangers as well, but I'm not sure if he falls far enough, and I'm not sure if he projects as a center at the NHL level. He is playing center in Michigan right now, but that's also a stacked team. That team I've seen in my 20-plus years of watching college hockey. So they have options. I just don't know if they stay there or if that pick gets traded or not. But those are some of the guys that I think would be good at 15 or if they can somehow move up a few spots to get it.
Well, one thing that's for certain, they're not going to draft a right-handed shooting defenseman for the 4th straight year or how many. I mean, it's like we went through this and you got excited and now it's sort of like you start clapping, going, yeah. Kind of like that now. I mean, Brady Schneider could be great. I mean, I can't wait for the newly signed Nils Lundqvist to make it to the Rangers. But there's only so many spots, and I'm really hoping, again, going back to what we were talking about with the Rangers before, you gotta address who's going to be where, and you gotta know where to manage these assets. The good
You're
thing
not
is
even
having
Robertson or Zach Jones. You got to remember those two.
I got a feeling Robertson might be real good, and obviously Zach Jones is as well. The good news is they're left side defensemen, correct?
Zach Jones and Matthew Robertson are both left side, but
Yeah.
you never know. They could be in a deal for whatever center they end up going after, or if they make a deal for a center. That's why I'm saying, why not make those, put in those assets for Eichel instead of having to hold on to them and trade them for a lesser player in the future,
Yeah. All right. Well, I've got wedding duties I have to do. The curse of being a groomsman, always a groomsman, never a groom. Keep that in mind, ladies. And so I got to get on that. I got to meet everybody down in the courtyard right now. But so this is our first experiment with Mark on the road. It could have been a little bit better.
We're not doing the 4 horsemen salute here. That was to show off.
Yeah.
I thought thing here.
And there's no tan lines either on those.
Yeah.
So But thank you very much, everybody, for joining us, especially if you hung in this long. Wow. Fortunately, I can see the count is no. Yeah. But, but in any event, we will talk to you soon. See you next week for another episode of All Things Rangers.
Take care.